A world divided, the dawn of the Cold War. The year is 1945. World War II, a conflict of unimaginable destruction, has finally ended. The Allied powers, led by the United States, Great Britain and the Soviet Union, had fought together to defeat Nazi Germany. But victory came at a tremendous cost, leaving Europe in ruins and the world yearning for peace. Yet even as the rubble was being cleared, the seeds of a new conflict were being sown. The wartime alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union began to unravel, revealing deep ideological differences. The United States, a capitalist democracy, and the Soviet Union, a communist state, emerged from the war as the world's two superpowers, each suspicious of the other's intentions. This mistrust marked the beginning of the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and its allies, and the Soviet Union and its satellite states. This was not a war fought on traditional battlefields with tanks and troops. Instead, it was a war of ideology, of espionage, of proxy wars, and of the constant threat of nuclear annihilation. At the heart of the Cold War lay a fundamental clash of ideologies: capitalism versus communism. The United States championed capitalism, a system promoting free markets, individual liberties, and democratic governance. The Soviet Union, in contrast, advocated for communism, a system that called for the abolition of private property, a classless society, and rule by a single party. These contrasting visions for the future of humanity fueled a global propaganda war. The United States sought to contain the spread of communism, which it viewed as a threat to freedom and democracy. The Soviets, in turn, accused the United States of imperialism and sought to export its communist revolution. This ideological battle played out on a global stage. Countries around the world were pressured to choose sides, aligning themselves with either the United States or the Soviet Union. This division had profound consequences, shaping international relations, influencing domestic politics, and fueling regional conflicts for decades to come. The Cold War was punctuated by a series of dramatic confrontations that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. One such flashpoint was the Berlin blockade of 1948–49, when the Soviet Union attempted to starve West Berlin into submission by cutting off all land access to the city. The United States responded with the Berlin airlift, a massive humanitarian effort that airlifted supplies to the besieged city for over a year. Another critical moment came in 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis. The discovery of Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, triggered a tense 13-day standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. With the world holding its breath, President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev negotiated a deal that averted nuclear war, but left a chilling legacy of how close the world had come to disaster. The Cold War rivalry also extended beyond Earth's atmosphere with the space race. Both superpowers poured resources into space exploration, seeking to demonstrate their technological superiority. The Soviet Union initially took the lead with the launch of Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957, followed by Yuri Gagarin's historic first manned spaceflight in 1961. The United States, however, ultimately triumphed in the race to the moon, landing astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the lunar surface in 1969. Section 4. A World on Edge. Living in the shadow of Armageddon. Throughout the Cold War, the threat of nuclear war cast a long shadow over everyday life. The United States and the Soviet Union amassed vast arsenals of nuclear weapons, each capable of obliterating the other many times over. This nuclear standoff created a pervasive climate of fear and uncertainty. Governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain, the metaphorical divide between East and West, went to great lengths to prepare their citizens for a potential nuclear attack. School children practiced duck-and-cover drills. Families built bomb shelters in their backyards, and public service announcements warned of the dangers of radiation. The constant threat of nuclear annihilation had a profound psychological impact, shaping the worldview of an entire generation. Section 5. The Fall of the Wall. Legacy of a Divided World. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, weakened by economic stagnation and internal dissent, began to crumble. The symbolic end of the Cold War came in 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall, a physical manifestation of the ideological divide that had split Europe for decades. 2 years later, in 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved, marking the end of one of the most consequential chapters in human history. The legacy of the Cold War continues to shape the world today. From the continuing tensions between the United States and Russia, to the legacy of conflict in countries like Korea and Vietnam, the echoes of this ideological struggle are still felt. Yet the Cold War also offers valuable lessons about the importance of diplomacy, the dangers of nuclear proliferation, and the enduring human desire for freedom and self-determination.